What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time if you're new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to Lucia's EP, DAMIDAMI. I'm very excited to see what this is like. The Zenless EPs are always a good time, and Lucia is a character I'm interested in learning more about, and this thumbnail is fairly interesting as well. Seems like she's in a bit more of a sort of fantastical, medieval-ish style outfit rather than what we're used to. But that's all to say that I'm very excited to get into this. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, consider becoming a channel member if you want to support me just that little bit extra, and let's get into this. I'm curious to see what kind of music this is. Ooh. Oh, starting with us, or Belle, rather. Ooh. Okay. Interesting. All right. And now we enter the more fantastical setting. Ooh, a goat ethereal? This is very intriguing. Ooh, okay. Ethereal versions of animals. Or like mixes. Ooh, that was a cool shot. Okay. Oh, the little like gnome elf ethereals. Oh my god. Okay. I'm really liking this vibe. Of course she's riding it. Huh. Okay. Interesting. And then we return to the real world. Okay. I'm beginning to pick up on something here. Huh. I really like the vibe of this song. Yeah. All alone. Why is that? Trading cards. Okay. Oh my god. Yo, that design. This is going all kinds of places, vibes-wise. Visuals, at least. Song's very consistent, which I like. God, those big ethereals look great. And there's the bell. Oh. She's on the roof? What? This is a very intriguing EP. The song is a really solid vibe. I really like how they're willing to play with different styles for different characters, and even ones that you wouldn't necessarily expect for a specific character. This very acoustic, sort of medieval sounding song, I don't really know what genre to call it, is not what I would expect from Lucia. But it works really well, I think. And I think this begins to give us a little bit more of a sense of what her sort of story and character will be about. But let's start from the beginning. We open on Belle sleeping in her room, only to reveal Lucia looking into the room with some food in hand, a skewer of some kind, as we get the first lyrics begin to come in. From the limited amount of interaction that Lucia and the Phaethon siblings have in this, it's sort of impossible to say whether or not we know each other at this point, but I don't know, it sort of gives off a level of familiarity to me. The way she comes to our room, sees in the window that we're still sleeping, goes to the roof, ends up falling asleep up there. It speaks to me as either she already has met us and wanted to come and hang out with us or whatever, but we were asleep, so she passes the time on the roof doing whatever the rest of this is. Or alternatively, I think it could tie into the general cohesive theme of this EP and potentially her overall arc. It is possible that she doesn't really know us. We've heard of her, she's heard of us, and so she has come to meet us, introduce herself, and see if we get along, can click, hang out a bit, that kind of thing, hoping that a friendship can form. But we're asleep, so she just goes up to the roof to wait for us to wake up. And alongside this, in the lyrics, we're already getting a lot of mentions of lambs and sheep, and later there's a lot of stuff with goats, obviously sort of tying back to her being a goat tyrant or something along those lines, which I honestly hadn't processed it too much before, because always the eyes are pretty weird and distinct in Hoyoverse games. But her eyes here very clearly are distinctly sort of sheep-goat eyes, with the wide and long pupils. But it's here on the roof that we get, I think, the first real pertinent line of the song. Little lamb, wool so white, why are you hiding from the rest? Almost certainly this is talking about Lucia specifically. She is the lamb in this scenario. Why are you hiding from the rest? Why are you not with the other sheep? A question with limited context that it's hard to answer in this exact moment, because this is the first time this idea that she is isolated really is coming up. Prior to now, we've had introduced that she's a bit of a weirdo, but she's always been introduced as part of the Spook Shack, and more particularly connected to Yadari, in the case of her demo. This paints a different picture. Either one from before she joined Spook Shack, depending on how recent that is, or just more exploring into her specifically as she is current. So let's keep this line in mind. Why does she hide from the rest? Let's think about that, let's dwell on that as we move forward. Focusing on the visuals for a moment, she's paging through her book of notes on ethereals, looking at a page where she has sketched out essentially just a goat with an ethereal tail, as we then watch her eyes slowly close, drifting off to sleep. Given that Belle is still asleep and it seems to be either sunrise or sunset, it seems like either she woke up very early and didn't get enough sleep, or didn't sleep at all. But as she falls asleep and we phase into her dream, we have this line that repeats several times throughout this song. I ring my bell, I ring my bell. I'm not at this moment entirely sure what it specifically is supposed to refer to, but it feels important. But nonetheless, entering the stream, Lucia spots one of these fabled goats with an ethereal tail that she had sketched up before. Probably just an invention of her mind, or just some random rumor or story that she was told and she sketched up based on. But regardless, she gets really excited. She, of course, loves researching and observing ethereals, and throughout this, we're getting lines talking about the end of summer. And interestingly enough, we have a reference sort of reverse to some very classic sci-fi. Instead of do machines dream of electric sheep, we have electric sheep, do you dream of machines? Obviously, it holds the connection to Lucia in just the simplest form of sheeps and goats and stuff like that, but it's a very distinct reference to make here. And it also potentially ties into the fact that dreams and dreamscapes seem to be something very important to this next version. One thought that immediately occurs to me is the possibility that Lucia might be some kind of android, but that doesn't like speak to me as like true, but otherwise I can't think of like an explicit thing that this line is in reference to other than just the most bare bones basic level. I don't know. It once again feels like there's meaning here that is escaping me. I'm not confident on any one interpretation of this line, but if I were to sort of give a shot at it, one possibility is it could be leading into some of the same themes of do androids dream of electric sheep? It could be tying into ideas of what it means to be human, what defines humanity, that kind of thing maybe? And that actually could potentially be connecting back to the fact that it seems like one of the major things with Lucia in this version is her discovering an ethereal that actually can go against its nature and be friendly with people and cooperate and that kind of thing. And perhaps in that case, it's asking the question, are these monsters truly monsters? Are they far more human than we might think or have the capacity to be? Do they truly need to be destroyed? It also doesn't escape me that there could very well be meaning in the fact that this line has been reversed from its original classic version. If androids dream of electric sheep, what do electric sheep dream of? Do they dream of androids? Machines. It's interesting to think about. Like I said, I'm not 100% confident about any specific detail in there, but the line very much catches me. But it also shouldn't be forgotten that this line does continue. It doesn't just end there. Ask electric sheep, do you dream of machines in your sleep, or do you dream of running far and free? And visually speaking, we just are getting some really fun visuals here. of all of these like slightly ethereal versions of creatures. This is a favorite shot of mine. We very much have a Snow White and the Seven Dwarves type situation here, but they are all ethereals. We also have a hooded goat here with apples, funnily enough. Very well could still be referencing into that sort of Snow White vibe. We also got an ethereal mermaid here. The goat is still present. It never is leaving. And generally speaking, the song in this part is talking about roaming free, enjoying the journey, enjoying discovery. And I think that last piece is the key piece. Journeying into the unknown, discovering that which has yet to be discovered. That is clearly a passion of Lucia in the case of ethereals. She researches them, she observes them, what ethereals are capable of, what they act like, what their behaviors are, what these new creatures are like, what they dream of, perhaps, if we tie back to that line. That is where she finds joy. That is where she finds freedom. I may be going too crack theory in my interpretation here, but perhaps to tie this all together at this point, though we're only a third of the way through the song, perhaps Lucia is the electric sheep in this context. And to use one of the lines from before of Twilight calling summer's end, the world is coming to an end by all clear signs. The Hollows have devastated the world. Unimaginable horrors take over everything. Humanity has been confined to this one city. So what do you dream of, Electric Sheep? Machines, like would be implied by the reference being made? Or do you dream of freedom? Something new, something freeing, something inspiring beyond the city walls? Do you dream that you could step into a new world with new creatures, with new possibilities to discover? And that's the funny little coincidence. The Hollows are what destroyed the world, brought it to this confined state. But what is an unknowable horror but something to discover? Journeying into the Hollows, roaming free, seeing a new world unlike the one that this Electric Sheep Lucia is used to, discovering creatures unlike anything she has seen. Perhaps that is what this is telling us, that she finds freedom and joy in the new worlds the Hollows create. But then it's here that we get to the other real aspect, the more obvious one. It's here that we have a bit of contrast in the lyrics and the visuals. I wandered high and low, now I don't walk alone. As we see visuals of Lucia watching the goat she has been journeying with and following reunite with its family, all while she stands separate in the shade behind the bushes as the goat has stepped into the light to rejoin its family. This line could be referring to a lot of things in this context. It could be referring to the fact that the goat and Lucia have been journeying together, and Lucia believes that she is no longer alone because they are journeying together and have bonded, only to then see it has a family of its own that it has returned to, serving as a bit of irony to the line. Alternatively, it could be in perspective of the goat itself, having now returned to its family. It has wandered high and low, and now it doesn't walk alone because it is returned to its family. But nonetheless, the reaction she has here to seeing the goat she's been journeying with and following reunite with its family and to a degree potentially leave her behind, I think sort of opens the door on why she is isolated, or at least tied to that idea. She seems surprised, but then she sort of smiles to herself looking down before waving goodbye and walking away. She doesn't really even go up to the goat or anything like that. She just realizes it has a family of its own, takes a moment to process that, and then smiles, waves, and leaves. To me, it is entirely possible that if she already at this point is used to not fitting in, is used to not being welcome in certain in-groups for one reason or another, likely because of how weird she can be, she may have already internalized the mentality that she is not welcome in conventional in-groups. She thought she found a companion in this random goat. This is also a dream, so, you know, put a grain of salt on all of this for, like, how literal it's supposed to be. But she thought she found a companion, only to discover that it is already part of a social group. At which point, potentially, if I'm to extrapolate a bit too far here, alarm bells might go off in her head of, oh, they won't want me around because I'll only mess things up if they keep hanging out with me. People will start to think they're weird too, and they'll be ostracized as well. I don't want that. So I'll just leave them be, walk off. I can be alone. I don't need to drag other people down with me. If that is the intention, that is deep, deep subtext here, but it is where my mind has led me. At which point, though, we transition to the next scene. Notably, we do not see her wake up, so this still very much could be within the dream. Seeing as where we bookend things is her asleep on the roof, though I do believe that these scenes we then get between now and that bookend are much more real, much closer to potential memories than just false dreamlike fantasy scenarios. We are clearly somewhere around the outer ring. We see that she has a backpack here, and alongside the line, "Set my heart upon a quest," which leads me to think that, of course, however real or not real this is meant to be, she is on a journey. She is exploring the world, as small as it may be, discovering new creatures, observing them, researching them. It's another example of what the lyrics were talking about before, of roaming free, discovering new things. It's just that this visual is much more real and plausible. And as this other character appears, leaning over the railing to talk to her, we once again have a bit of a contrast with the lines. "I'm by myself, but far from lonely." Now we are once again returning to the idea that she is alone, she is isolated, but she claims to be far from lonely. Potentially because stuff like what we're seeing happens. She meets people who are interesting, and they're interested in what she's doing. So though she is by herself on this journey, she is far from lonely because she's constantly meeting new people with interesting ideas and lives that she trades stories with. And we see in this case, at least, that Lucia and this girl hit it off to a degree. Based on the background behind them, she seems to be talking about her stories, her research, tying it back to these goats with ethereal tails, chronicling the journeys she has been on or would like to go on, depending on how real this is supposed to be. But here, as she's excitedly retelling this story to this girl and she happily listens, we have the question, "Little lamb, wool so white, why are you running on your own? Why are you alone? Why do you stay away from the others?" If my interpretation of her leaving the goat with its family is at all correct, why do you isolate yourself? Moments like these, where you interact with someone and have a great time telling them about your interests, and they excitedly reciprocate, why do you not let that continue? Why do you not forge these bonds closer? Why do you keep running on your own? Why do you stay by yourself? But then the next line is actually very intriguing on top of this, especially with what the visuals are. "I'm just like you, searching for where I belong." Two key ways to interpret this come to mind for me. One is this is a call response. Someone asking this question and she answers. "Why are you running on your own? I have yet to find where I belong. I am searching for it. That is why I journey. I discover new places, I discover new things. I search for places and people in which I would belong among. And until I find it, I will be alone." Alternatively, we could combine these statements to be from the same perspective. The person asking the question, asking Lucia, "Why do you run alone?" It could actually be the person asking the question reaching out, potentially being the equivalent of the girl who has taken interest in her notes. "Why do you run alone? I'm just like you. We're both searching for a place to belong. We get along, we could have a friendship here, a bond." I think there's merits to both of them. But very intriguing alongside this is the visuals of the girl who leaves the interaction happily being reached out to and pulled along by someone else away from Lucia. It does not speak to me as a visual of just another friend of this girl coming and saying, "Oh, hey, we got stuff to do, let's head out," or whatever, and then the two of them just going. It much more speaks to me as a parent or friend basically pulling her away, going, "What are you doing talking to that weird stranger?" And clearly the girl doesn't really pick up on this. She just had a good time, and then, like, her parent or whatever said, "All right, let's go." But Lucia is much more hesitant about this separation, it seems, though that might not be the right way to put it. She's much more muted. She isn't watching this new acquaintance and potential friend go happily. She was having a great time talking to them, and it was cut short. Perhaps she is familiar with this kind of scenario where she runs into someone who shares her interests, but because her interests are weird to a lot of people, those people that she gets along with tend to get pulled away from her by their friends and family who think that it would be strange and not good to associate with Lucia, potentially sort of retroactively giving evidence to the thing I was talking about with her reaction to the goat finding its family. If she has learned time and time again, people don't want to associate with me, and the people who do have the same interests as me have social groups that want to keep them away from me. I do not want to damage that. I'm gonna leave on my own. But as we watch her continuing to, on her own journey, camp out, we get another layer to things with these next lines. "To the end, I'll keep you close. I'll follow you and be your shadow." Who is being talked about here? If it's supposed to be Lucia's perspective here, who is she following? Who is she shadowing? Who is she holding close? If we're to tie that perspective for most of the song, she has herself said that she is on her own, but not lonely. Is it perhaps because she holds close to this person, or is this in contradiction to that? She said she was fine on her own, but now she has found some kind of bond that she seeks and she follows after. But it's here in this part that the feelings of her being isolated become completely clear visually. As we see her walking through the streets at night, we first see into a window, into a brightly lit room where a father tells a story to their child while she is out in the dark of the streets reading her own notes. She is not there to receive that care and comfort while others are. And then we take on this shot of her walking through various environments of the city, tons of people around her, having just daily interactions together with others as she on her own walks through them all. But tying back to that idea of following someone, it almost now is framed as a chase. If I catch you, promise don't hide again, implying that this person or thing is something she has lost and seeks to regain, something she is chasing after, something that she wishes to follow behind. Perhaps the true reason for her journey. She roams free to discover new things, to find a place to belong, and perhaps that is what it is. It's not a person she holds on to, a person she follows, a person she's trying to shadow, but this sense of belonging. She wants a place to call home, a family to call her own. It has hidden from her, and so if she can find it, she hopes it will not hide from her again. It will not leave her. And at this point is when we introduce the kids playing some like card game with ethereals. Her interrupting the game, slamming her hand on the table because she's really excited. Clearly these kids are interested in something ethereal related or whatever. Also ties into the fact that she's been shown to have an almost childlike wonder at ethereals. And it's here with these kids playing this card game that she once again is finding some kind of belonging of sorts. It's in this incredibly goofy way of playing this card game with some kids, but the kids are playing along with her passion, she's playing off of theirs. There's a joy here, a revelry of sorts, almost, based on the sort of vibe of this part of the song. And it's here we return to, I suppose, is the chorus, with the line, "I wandered high and low, now I don't walk alone again." At this point, it is much more clear and pertinent. She has found some people who she can relate to, who she can get along with, who she can spend time with in line with the lyrics, sing songs and be jovial until dawn. But then with the ring of a bell, we exit the dream. Depending on how we interpret this, it actually can almost be a bit tragic, a little sad. The last of the dream we see is her finding people she can get along with no sign of them being pulled away from her or having a reason for her to distance herself from them, only for then it to be revealed to all just be a dream. It's very interesting to me, because though some of this jumped out at me, especially the isolation of her on the initial viewing, a lot of what I have sort of dug into here I think is actually very pertinent, potentially. And realistically, in some ways, though I may be going too far in certain areas, I think I might only be scratching the surface in some ways, because there's a few lines that I didn't really touch on that could hold meaning. There's occasional mention of a secret untold, that kind of thing. There's a lot more here than I expected, but I am very happy with it. And then of course there's this idea of this ringing bell. Visually, it is what guides us from within the dream to outside of it. And it is this line that is repeated, "I ring my bell, I ring my bell." I don't know, that's the one piece I feel like I'm truly missing here. But regardless, I do think what I have landed on, what I have interpreted, is fairly valid. And it really all comes back to some of the questions that were asked in the lyrics. The vast majority of this EP is a dream, her dream. And as we enter that dream, we ask the question, what do electric sheep dream of? Is it machines? No, it's freedom. The freedom to roam, to journey. And why do they want to roam and journey and be free? So that they can find where they belong. Because where they are tied down, where they are caged, is somewhere that they do not fit in. And so it is this dream of that freedom to journey out, to find distant lands, to discover people you can belong with, to find that family that you lack. That is what this entire EP speaks to me as, lyrically and visually. And I don't know. I don't know if this is meant to stand in contrast to her connections in Spook Shack, or meant to be a setup for how those bonds are created and or strengthened in the story, as she, in many ways similar to other Spook Shack members we know, find this sort of found family amongst each other. I think that's possible. I think that is entirely possible. But regardless, this absolutely makes me much more interested in what Lucia's character is going to be about, what her arc will be, what her character will be about. But with that, I think I've rambled on enough. So feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and very special thanks to all of my channel members, including Desaize and Pokelove101 at the normal tier, and Kondo Nano at the cool person tier. Really appreciate your support, as always, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye!